So Gotham City is the macro, if anybody knows economics, and Batman is the micro. What does that mean? So Batman's world and Batman himself, when you look at a micro focus on this construct of the Batman character, should be expansive, right? This man's martial arts skills should be expansive, uncontainable, the growth in his martial arts ability. This man's psychology, expansive, the growth and the limits and the breaking limits and the connivingness and the calculatingness and the planning and unbelievable. Genius. When you look at Batman as a micro focus, his world in Gotham, expansive. Billionaire. We're talking like, Rolls Royces. We're talking like wealth that you've never seen before, right? And this is something I never understood. No matter which version of Batman I watch on film, I never get the sense that he's a super expansively so wealthy billionaire. Never. I never get the sense. I've seen, if you see someone from afar in real life, like I've driven through areas where millionaires and billionaires live. I can't, in some of these areas they have their own police department for like a mile or 2 miles of land, right? Like a privately hired police department. Now me, I grew up in a small town that was like 2 miles long, like literally like a small suburban town. Everybody knew everybody, and everybody knew everybody's business. Not a wealthy town. It was poor to middle class, and literally you could drive a couple minutes and you would be at the end of the town. Small town America, like that's where I grew up. You could walk, wherever to school because it was that close. But I've been to areas when I've traveled or I've driven through areas that are wealthy. And, I can't see much more than these gigantic mansions and houses as I'm driving past, in a car. But you get the sense like this is a world, like I could see like the top of the gate and that's as far as I can see. Like that just comes from personal experience. Like I know there's an island, I think it's an island, in Florida. I think it's near Miami or somewhere around there, but it's called Star Island or something like that. And it's a lot of wealthy people, celebrities, things like that. But I've been on a bench and if someone has told me like, hey, that's Star Island over there, and I could look through the ocean and see maybe like as much as I could see from that far away. But I would never step foot or ever be able to step foot or rub shoulders with these people. Why don't we get that sense when we see Bruce Wayne in film? I never get that sense. I never get the sense that he's a billionaire. I never get the sense that Gotham is a huge, monolithic, operatic, insanely huge scope of a city. That's important. That's very important because I'm talking about the micro focus in Batman and the macro focus of Gotham as entities, right? Sharing a space. Batman's I talked about his expansive martial arts skills. It's ever growing. I talked about his expansive mind. It's ever growing. It doesn't know any limits, supposedly. I talk about let's talk about his life above ground in Gotham City, and let's talk about his life below ground. And I'm gonna hit you with a point at the end that's gonna come across like a left hook. You're gonna feel it. Expansive, right? When you picture him above ground, expansive. Mansions, Rolls Royces, expensive jewelry, suits, he's rubbing shoulders with supermodels and wealthy men and politicians and captains of industry, and he's in skyscrapers and Wayne Enterprises, and there's R&D departments that are in all kinds of things, and he's involved with lawyers, and he's involved like a very wealthy man. Very, like, his family name is very ingrained in the city. He's very powerful. He's very wealthy. His mansion should be expansive to where if you were in his mansion, you would get lost. Good thing for Batman. But in general, you would get lost. And that's not putting it lightly. The guy's supposed to be a multi-billionaire. So go figure. There's billionaires in the real world, multi-billionaires in the real world that they live. There's one billionaire, I forget what his name is, some oil tycoon or something, some Iranian guy or Arabian guy, I don't know, some billionaire somewhere in the world that I heard this story about. He owns like a skyscraper and he lives in the skyscraper. Multi-billionaire. That's the kind of wealth we're talking about with Bruce Wayne. Expansive. Can't wrap your mind around it. You're in awe. Now let's look at his life below ground. Well, you could argue that there's only so much he can own above ground, right? There's other billionaires, there's other wealthy people in Gotham. But this man, obsessively so, pours all his billions of dollars underground. And he creates the Batcave, which should be expansive, which should be his secret dwelling, which should have networks and tunnels throughout Gotham, secret entry points and escape routes, things like that. And over the years, this should be getting more and more expansive. Now, here comes the left jab to your face. As expansive as his world and as awe-inspiring as it is above ground, as expansive as his world and awe-inspiring the Batcave is below ground, and as expansive as this man, this construct of Batman is in actuality, and the impression of Bruce Wayne is in superficiality, Gotham City itself should be 30 to 40 times that size. And if you don't want to get that extreme, then at least 3 times the size of what I've just described of Batman's world. Because you must never lose perspective. As expansive as Batman is when we're in his world, when we're looking at that point of view, as expansive as it is, just like a giant fish in one pond is a small fish in a bigger pond and somebody else's lunch, then that's how it is with Batman. Gotham City dwarfs Batman. That's why Gotham is the macro and Batman is the micro. Now, of course, when we're in Batman's arena, it looks to us like the macro environment. It's gigantic. And when other characters and villains come into Bruce Wayne and Batman's world, they get engulfed in it, and it's gigantic. But then when you pull back, in comparison, Gotham is even more gigantic. And that's like the bigger fish engulfing the fish that is Batman, which is engulfing the fish that is everybody else and us as viewers. Operatic, monolithic. That's how you do it. So I wanted to quickly point that out as a comparison. I want you to kind of think about that. How when we're in Batman's arena, he is the macro, we are the micro, and this is a monolithic, statuesque, awe-inspiring man. You know, the Bruce Wayne's life, the Rolls Royces, the mansions, the wealth, the billionaire lifestyle, the cave itself, the machinations, like a mad scientist that's been pouring billions of dollars under this underground terrain, who nobody is stopping him from buying, or, you know, he doesn't really have to buy it, but nobody's stopping him from doing that. And nobody knows he's doing that. 2, Gotham itself. To Gotham itself, which is, you know, on a whole nother level. So, yeah, it starts with Gotham City. It starts with Gotham City because when we look at Batman, he should be like an ant in an anthill. Gotham's rogues gallery. I mean, this is so exciting. Like visually as a film, this would be so incredibly exciting to watch. Uh, Batman himself and his whole rogues gallery combined should be specks compared to Gotham City. Why? Metaphorical storytelling. Let's get some jabs. If Gotham City is a mother that's giving birth to these characters, right? Gotham City gave birth to Batman. Gotham City gave birth to Two-Face, Joker, Catwoman, Penguin, Riddler. Gotham City gave birth to Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, Clayface, Alfred, Thomas Wayne. Gotham City gave birth to all of them. Then Gotham City has to positively be an entity in itself. This has to be a character. This has to be an archetype of a city. And you got to delve into the theme of meaning. Humans giving meaning to things. And the meaning of Batman's struggle and efforts and story. And the meaning of his fight with the villains. The meaning of their lives when at the end of the day, Batman's going to die. Thomas Wayne, Martha died. Alfred's going to die. Joker's going to die. His whole rogues gallery is going to die. But Gotham City, which is so huge. Now, I don't know if you want to take, it depends how you want to categorize Gotham City. You can categorize it as like a black hole, rotten pit. You can categorize it as an industrial military complex, a systematic corruption, a capitalistic metaphor. There's a lot of things you can categorize Gotham City as. A mother entity in itself that's just the shadow side of the psyche. Whatever, embodied in a city, whatever you want to categorize it as, it's going to outlive all of them. And that theme should be explored. This monolithic city and this system, this operatic struggle, or any other lives actually going to mean anything? And if they do mean anything, why is that? Why do they mean something? Was it through Batman's effort that his life meant something upon the city? Is it ultimately meaningful within the microcosm that is the construct of Batman, but within the macrocosm that is Gotham City, it's utterly meaningless? And is that some kind of a comment on human society ourselves in terms of the universe and our own individualistic, ego-driven, meaning-endued or imbued lives? So and that's about as far as you need to explore it. Obviously you can explore it further and go into Metropolis and Superman and how Batman would wrap his head around that Superman is a being that is not only above Gotham City and not only above Metropolis and not only above everybody on the planet Earth, but that he's literally above planet Earth itself and will literally outlast the Earth. And we can go into some heavy philosophical stuff here. But since we're not dealing with Superman and since we're not dealing with that greater, even greater macrocosm that is this world, and we're simply dealing with Gotham's the big fish. That's where I would end it. You want to go further and delve into Superman and Metropolis and how he's above everybody and everything? Delve into that. That's a real philosophical territory. That's some Nietzsche stuff right there. But yeah, some interesting things that can be done with Batman. And we've seen film worlds where the environment, the atmosphere is a character. We've seen it in Avatar. We've seen it in Blade Runner. And it was very well done. And you can't think of Deckard without thinking of, the world that Ridley Scott created in Blade Runner. It all started with set design. It all started with the character of that world and that environment. Same thing with Avatar. It all started with world creation. Same thing with Batman. That's why you can't just shoot any of these Batman films in Chicago like Nolan did, or and just call it our world. You can't have a realistic tone. You can't, because this is a guy that's dressed as a bat, and a guy dressed as a bat in our realistic world is unrealistic. A guy dressed as a bat in Tim Burton's fantastical world is realistic. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Now, obviously the Gotham that I described is like Tim Burton's world on steroids. I'm talking about, a whole couple months of planning, a scope of, I don't know if you build miniatures, I don't know, set design, however you want to do it, but I'm talking about, a city where even though Bane's 20 times the size of Batman, and Batman's a speck in the city, and then Bane's a speck in the city, like they're all ants. That's what I'm getting at. Like this is a city that you've like this city eats the cities that we know for breakfast. I don't care how you do it. Art Deco skyscrapers like the animated series. You want more Victorian architecture. You want a fusion of both. You want a city so great that there's a section of the city that's Victorian Gothic, and a section of the city that's Art Deco, and a section of the city that's this, and a section of the city that's German architecture. You know what? Go for it. That way, as the characters go through the film, as we go through the environments, your set design is as limited as your imagination. Like, hey, the city I'm talking about is so big, you know what? It's big enough to be Art Deco. It's big enough to be Victorian. It's big enough to be German Expressionist. It's big enough to be every architectural design you've ever thought of. Because Gotham City does not exist in real life. So we don't have to limit ourselves when we're talking about these stories. And again, going to the expansiveness of Batman, that's a reflection of the city that he is born of. It's a reflection of Gotham. So when you look at Batman himself, he's expansive. When you compare him to Gotham, he's an ant. It's a very small microcosm. So what does that mean? Well, as wealthy billionaire as he is, somewhere on some corner of Gotham, there should be a couple trillionaires. People that are wealthier than him. Families that are older than his. Why not? You see, you always have to go, whenever you see a big dog in a park, you always have to find a bigger dog in another park. Like, that's how you have conflict. That's how you have a story. Yeah, in the microcosm that is the construct of Batman and Bruce Wayne's life, as old as his family legacy is in Gotham, there should be a family with an even ancient or older legacy. As multi-billionaire wealthy as he is, there should be a couple trillionaires in Gotham with their own agendas and vendettas. So, it's just there's always something bigger. There's always something bigger. There's always something bigger. And as big as Batman is, Gotham's bigger. There will always be someone wealthier. There will always be someone more evil. There will always be someone, how should I phrase it, with more control in different aspects of the city. But there should never be anybody, and this is where the character construct of Batman comes in, that has greater will than Batman. There should never be anybody that has greater growth than Batman. There should never be anybody that breaks limits like Batman. Batman should be the prodigal son of Gotham City. Meaning, as a character construct, even though they're all ants, Batman and his villains, all these characters, and Gotham City is this monolithic thing. Like, perfect example. And you guys are going to laugh, but perfect example. Neo and the Matrix. The Matrix is this expansive thing, right? And every once in a while it has the one. There were ones before Neo, and who knows, maybe there's ones after Neo. But in the story that when we enter it, Neo is the one. Same exact thing. The Matrix is Gotham City. Gotham City is the Matrix. Neo is the one. Batman is the one. Batman is Neo. Neo is Batman. You get my point. Like, every once in a blue moon generation, Gotham City produces someone that's a living embodiment of all its good and bad qualities. That offspring that's an apple not far from the tree, that chip off the old shoulder. So that should be Batman when it comes to Gotham City. Just like that's Neo when it comes to the Matrix. As far as when we see the story and the scope of the story, obviously when Batman dies, another couple generations, who knows, somebody else. But as micro as Batman is, he should have that expansive macro Gotham City DNA in him. That's what makes him incredible to watch, and that's what keeps him as the main story. Make no mistake, for me, villains aside, family and friends aside, to me, it will always be a story of Gotham City and its prodigious offspring named Batman. Hand in hand. That's the big picture story. That's the theme. I mentioned Gotham City can be an industrial complex, capitalistic system. I mentioned it could be a metaphor for the universe. It could be the shadow self, the shadow psyche of the ego. These things already exist in myth, in psychoanalysis. With the shadow being the mother and the shadow essentially being Shiva in Hindu mythology. This all engulfing, destructive, dark energy. Now, I'm not saying that you would have to make Gotham City that. I'm saying you could. You can make it 50 billion different things as well. It depends what archetypical metaphor you choose to use. And hell, you could use 5 different metaphors to categorize Gotham City. Make it as deep and complex as you'd like. But this will always be a story between the macro and the micro, the grand, the many and the individual, the Batman and his Gotham City. And again, going to the expansiveness of Batman, that's a reflection of the city that he is born of. It's a reflection of Gotham. So when you look at Batman himself, he's expansive. When you compare him to Gotham, he's an ant. It's a very small microcosm. So what does that mean? Well, as wealthy billionaire as he is, somewhere on some corner of Gotham, there should be a couple trillionaires. People that are wealthier than him. Families that are older than his. Why not? You see, you always have to go, whenever you see a big dog in a park, you always have to find a bigger dog in another park. Like, that's how you have conflict. That's how you have a story. Yeah, in the microcosm that is the construct of Batman and Bruce Wayne's life, as old as his family legacy is in Gotham, there should be a family with an even ancient or older legacy. As multi-billionaire wealthy as he is, there should be a couple trillionaires in Gotham